Project Playtime just released and the game was an absolute mess with endless bugs.
I'm pretty sure you can leave the train by just spamming. Yeah, you can. Oh, I'm out of the map.
People being scammed out of money, and oftentimes the game just not working at all. So if you guys didn't know, Project Playtime is the Poppy Playtime multiplayer spin-off, and it, even before its launch, was incredibly controversial. With at first people complaining about the questionable design of the newly revealed character Boxy Boo, and then even more so when the game got delayed on multiple occasions, at first being a few hours delay, and then a day delay, and then multiple days, with it only finally being released nearly a week after it was initially supposed to, which could be a telltale sign as to what was to come when it finally came out. Because when the game did release on the 12th of December 2022, the reception of the game was horrible. And the first complaint I wanted to talk about is the server issues. So as you could imagine, the game had an incredibly high player volume out of launch, especially after being delayed so long, and people jumped onto the server so fast that it almost immediately entirely broke. You see, at launch, there were 3 ways to play the game: quick play, which joins you into a random server; hosting, which allows you to start your own server; and finally, the game list, where you can join other people's specific servers. Now, the quick play feature doesn't work at all. It literally just glitches and then either puts you in a lobby all alone or just errors out completely for whatever reason. The host mode oftentimes also doesn't work too. However, it's a lot more consistent, and if you're lucky, you can actually get into a game and play with your friends, assuming they can get in themselves, which is surprisingly difficult. Especially since the third way of joining these server listings was absolutely broken. 90% of the time when trying to join a game of any sorts, what usually happens is the game will load a little, freeze a little, and then you'll get kicked out for some random reason unrelated to the actual issue, which is the server problems. And what's worse is that if you get kicked out once, you're finished. The server button literally just stops working and you'll have to restart the game to give it another try. So if it was so hard to join servers, then how did people get into the game? Well, it's simple. They didn't. Sometimes you'd get lucky and actually get into a server, but for the most part, other than that, it's entirely impossible. But I guess moving on from the server issues, how does the game actually play? Well, probably as you'd expect, there are a ton of glitches in the game to the point where they are full-blown game breaking. For the most part, the basic fundamentals like solving puzzles, shutting doors, and using abilities work just fine. However, everything in between is just a complete mess. For the monsters, the terrain at times feels like it's not really designed for them at all, with characters like Huggy Wuggy who aren't very mobile finding themselves getting caught on basically everything in the map while trying to move. Assuming, of course, you didn't just fall completely inside of the map, which actually happened more times than you would think, essentially registering the game unplayable. Now, for the survivors, things only get worse because we have the grab pack system from the first game, which in theory should make the game a lot better. However, it just opens up the game for way more bugs. For example, if you're on the train while it's moving and you just spam your grab packs until they stick onto something outside of the map, you'll essentially just get launched into the stratosphere. Also, if your grab packs are sticking onto something else, whether that be a puzzle or the terrain around you, and you get caught by the monsters, oftentimes the grab packs will get stuck and you'll be trapped inside of the mini Huggy pit with no hands to defend yourself until they eventually fly all the way back to you. Now, outside of the actual gameplay, there's just as, if not even more, quality of life problems that were either not implemented correctly or were just completely broken for an unknown reason. For example, when being jump scared or jump scaring, there will oftentimes either be a delayed animation, no animation at all, or the character will do a bunch of spins or whatever before you're even killed. Also, as of right now, a lot of people can't change their settings in the game for whatever reason, like their resolution and graphics quality. In fact, in the Poppy Playtime Discord server, they actually have a Steam forum pin that shows you how to go into the game files yourself to edit the resolution manually, because apparently the game doesn't have a working system for that yet. The next problem with Project Playtime's launch was that there is a ton of fundamental game issues that make the game really hard to play even when it does work. For example, one of the biggest complaints I've seen about the game is the balancing issues, with some characters like Mommy Longlegs having far too much mobility, being able to infinitely grapple around the map, and others like Boxy Boo being so bad they can barely touch the player since his movement is so sluggish, leading to some toys being basically unusable and others being way too overpowered. What's even worse though is that there is only a 1 in 7 chance you'll actually get picked for the with a monster every round, obviously. And so a lot of the time, the moment the game starts, half the lobby who didn't get the monster literally just leaves right at the beginning, forcing you to play the game basically by yourself. And what's worse is if the host happens to be the one to leave the game at any moment, including the very end, the lobby entirely shuts down and you get no XP or tickets at all for what you played. And speaking of which, let's talk about the reward system inside of Project Playtime, because they are just as poorly managed, if not worse. The first spendable currency is toy tickets. Toy tickets are the currency the player gets at the end of every game that they can eventually use to purchase perks and sabotages to make the game easier. Usually these work fine as long as, of course, the lobby doesn't shut down, so that's all good. However, then there's the play coin system, which, if you didn't know, is the paid currency in the game that you pay money for to purchase skins in the shop and, most importantly, the battle pass. There are a plethora of issues with the play coin system. First off, for whatever reason, at launch they had to entirely disable the currency because of the bugs in the game, which is weird, but whatever. However, there's a major problem when purchasing from some international currencies like Canada, where when trying to buy the currencies, they will just randomly double in price. For example, this user was going to buy 1,000 play coins from the store, which costs 10 American dollars. However, when you go to actually purchase these, they convert to Canadian currency and then double it. Meaning if you want the battle pass or any other skins in the game, if you're from Canada, it's going to cost you twice as much. I don't know how this glitch happened, but as you could tell, it's probably really bad for business. However, let's just say you cut your losses and spend the money to specifically purchase the battle pass. The premise of the battle pass, as you could guess, is that you spend 1,000 play coins at the start, and then you get all the premium rewards by earning XP while playing games. Simple enough. However, this system is also pretty much completely broken, because for whatever reason, if you bought the premium battle pass, then all of the free items you would get just entirely stop working. And while I don't have proof to back this up, I've also seen some people reporting that even some of the premium items in the battle pass are not working as they level up for whatever reason. Plus, if you want to level up in the battle pass at all, well, that's also somehow bugged too. See, a lot of the times when loading up the game, your battle pass level will just show up as nothing. But if you hop into a game and complete a match, oftentimes the game will either error out and not register any of the XP, or just plain out give you 0 for whatever reason, entirely killing the progression system for the battle pass, which I thought would be the main financial draws for skins in the game. So overall, let's see what we have here. The servers hardly work, buying coins in the game doesn't work, the game is so glitchy it's hard to take seriously, and the XP systems that people are literally paying for sometimes just never register. Basically, as of right now, every single element of Project Playtime is broken in some way. I know a lot of people want to jump to defend Project Playtime and say that it's early access and so bugs were to be expected, but I don't really think it's fair to say that. The game can't ask for money and time from people, and then when they're disappointed with how their money and time were spent, just say, well, it's early access, so you can't complain. Like I said, I got to play the game before the public release, and for the most part, the game ran great and I had a ton of fun. But for whatever reason, when they released it to the public, the servers and everything else really just began to fall apart. It's early access, so I still have somewhat high hopes for the future, because when the game ran great, it was pretty fun. And they also just a couple hours ago released a brand new patch that supposedly fixed a lot of the stuff, so clearly they're working hard to make things better. But clearly making a multiplayer game this fast was incredibly overambitious, and I hope the devs are able to fix most of the in-game bugs. If you want to know the lore of Project Playtime, watch this video here, subscribe, and peace.